Grasso Park. But going back to the historical impacts, so we have met with cultural resources and archaeological experts. We've reached out to 2 or 3. We had most contacts with Metcalf, archaeologist, regarding the project. So we spoke to them about the possible impacts associated with the bridge as we wanted to better or the path through Grasso Park. So the park was impacted by the 2013 floods, and foot traffic currently does walk through the park. If you visit the site today, you can kind of see some footpaths, especially along this equipment shown here. I bring up the 2013 floods because from the archaeologist standpoint, since no buildings will be impacted, the historical designation of the buildings won't be impacted by the project, so that won't be. The question I had was the historical significance of the site. Their initial thought is there wouldn't, but the only way to determine that would be to do it's actually a class 3 analysis. I have a class 1 analysis listed here, but it would be a more in-depth class 3 analysis, and we did get a scope and fee to do that. But basically they would be on site to confirm that we're not impacting any physical items that are on the ground there. So they would do a physical investigation of the ground. There is no kind of geotech radar. I'm losing the terminology in my head, but basically you can do ground penetrating radar. That would not be part of a class 3 analysis. It is above ground analysis to determine those impacts. So their initial thought is there wouldn't be any impacts to the site associated with the project, but we'd have to do a class 3 analysis to confirm that. And I got the proposal from them today. It was about $9,700, $9,640, I think, to do that class 3 analysis to determine there wouldn't be any historical impacts to the site itself. History Colorado also won't weigh in on whether there are impacts to the path. They'd rely on archaeologists to do that, but they said it was unlikely to impact the historical designation of the park during their site visit on site. Project current status, the design is, finalized. We're waiting on the FEMA Clomer permit. We've been through 2 rounds of comments with FEMA, and there could be another round each time it starts a 90-day window, but they hope to have the permit soon. As I mentioned, Nerano was awarded the contract or was awarded the project from Mile High in 2022. They've completed their previous Coal Creek stream restoration projects upstream of 2nd Avenue and around 2nd Avenue. The bridge itself has minor impacts to the floodplain, but when we do the Clomar, we have to model the floodplain impacts to the whole area, and I did include an image of the floodplain. So when FEMA does floodplain modeling, they don't do specific points. It's more of a generic model they use. So anytime you do a project that impacts a stream, you have to do a detailed model. So with the project, we'll be getting an updated floodplain of the downtown area or the original town area. No properties are negatively impacted by the 100-year floodplain associated with this project, and no structures are negatively impacted. Here's a picture of the bridge at Nerano's laydown yard. It has arrived, and Nerano is ready to start construction, following for permit approval, and obviously pending the discussion we're having here tonight. And I forgot to mention the residents that were in the floodplain, letters went out to everyone regarding any impacts to their property associated with the new model. Here's a map of the floodplain. I didn't include it in your packet. I'd be happy to answer questions about it, but there are changes, good and bad. A lot of it is just modeling this specific area of the floodplain. So the floodplain maps will be updated. Again, no structures are being added to the 100-year floodplain as part of the project. The project funding it's 50% funded by Mile High, 12% roughly from Rogers Farm, and 38% from the town. No additional funding is being asked for. All the money's been paid to Mile High Flood District to complete the project. If it comes in under budget, money would be returned to the town. If there's design changes we make that increase cost, obviously there could be additional funding needed then, but at this time, the project's been paid for.
So we do have a question. So this has been, we're extending the Coal Creek Regional Trail. Is that a fair statement?
It would be a connection for the trail.
But yeah, the Coal Creek Trail ends.
It ends basically in Grasso Park right now, so this would be a connection.
This will take it up to the bridge.
It'll provide a connection from that endpoint over to the Boulder County Open Space, Mayhofer Single Tree Trail.
And it's a 24 by 7 by 365 trail.
I don't know that that's
It
been
is.
determined.
Oh, I can show you. We've got that. It's definitely, the Coal Creek Trail is a 24 by 7 trail.
I just can't confirm that that connection is going to be called part of the Coal Creek Regional Trail. It might just be a connector.
And that park is closed dawn to dusk, right? Dusk to
Correct.
dawn. Okay. It just needs to be noted, right? Because we are, no matter how you look at it, people are coming along that trail. They're going to just keep on going right up through the park. And I mean, it's the Coal Creek. I mean, what you call it, it's basically the Coal Creek Trail running up to that bridge. So I kind of curious how we deal with that or manage that. That's one of many other questions, but
I think we have a wayfinding sign on the other side of Coal Creek in Rogers Farm that says that it's Coal Creek Trail. So like,
Correct.
clearly is, yeah.
I just have, was this presentation included in our packet?
I believe so.
It is not
have
in, it was not prepared. This is all brand new. I mean, I'm not saying, but this was not included in the packet.
Yeah, we weren't able to prepare based on that
Yeah,
presentation.
so we're kind of at a disadvantage because we're seeing this for the first time.
I did have, most of the information is in the memo. I apologize. I thought it was uploaded. I'm sorry.
Brandon, just a question. On the north side of that, we talked about the grade, and right now we have what'd you say, the nine degree sort of ramp. Why are we turning it into stairs?
So, and Deb can speak to that too, but the reason for that was to improve the safety. So when you, I did hear one of the residents speak to this, and I've heard some residents through the recent public input we've been gathering express concerns about the current connection, and it's kind of a blind turn. So with this new connection through Grasso Park, you will have bikes coming along the connection of the stream and going under McCaslin. So there were concerns that if you have two bikes meeting there and they're coming down that ramp at a high rate of speed, it could be a safety concern. So that's why that stairs were being added to slow down. There is a bike ramp, you could walk your bike down, but that was why, to slow down that traffic. The other concern is they wanted to kind of discourage bikes from going down West William Street, because anytime you have bikes behind parked cars, it creates a little bit of a safety situation, because parked cars just back up. They're not looking for bikes, and bikes are coming through at a pretty high rate of speed. So the goal was to encourage bikes to take this alternative path.
Okay. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. And then I just want to explore a little bit, so right now what's on the sheets is a 10-foot concrete path that goes kind of between the new bridge and the existing path, but you could potentially narrow that to 8 feet and use something other than concrete.
Yeah,
Is there a potential cost savings there?
Yeah, I'll let Deb, if you could come speak to some of the alternatives we've talked about recently.
And part of, while that's coming up, part of my rationale to looking at that is, I think, as I think about this as a trail, regional trail, a connector, dawn to dusk, or 24/7, if it's a non-concrete trail, we're going to automatically slow people down, which is not a bad thing. A lot of bikers come through today very quickly. I'm one of them. But I'm just thinking about, because the bridge is a net positive for some of the folks that have to walk, some of the kids that have to walk to the bus stop on Williams that live south of the creek, right? Like right now, the bus only drives down Williams to pick up all those kids. So this bridge is a net positive to get the kids over there, because BVSD's buses go like nowhere anymore. But I'm just petrified of a zooming bike coming through and a kid walking across the bridge, and just trying to think through, with this path, what could we do to potentially slow the speeds down at that intersection today?
Yeah, and Yep, great points, Neil. And Deb will talk about a little bit about the path options. Regarding the bus, you're correct. The only bus stop in this area for Monarch Elementary Middle is up to the north. Miners Park, I believe, is near where the bus stop is near. So we have heard some residents in Rogers Farm and on the south original town that their kids currently cross the 2nd Avenue Bridge, which is a narrow bridge. I don't know the exact width off the top of my head, but it's narrower than 2nd Avenue is in general.
Yeah.
So it is a good connection for that school-aged children and traffic.
Hi, I'm Deb Ollinger with Olson, project manager on this project since 2021. In answer to your question about the soft trail, soft surface trail. We have a significant teaming partner on this project, Stream Landscape Architects and Planning. And so they were instrumental in informing us of the design requirements for the trails and all that. So I can speak to what I know, but if we have some questions, we can always explore further with Jesse Clark, who's an owner of that firm. But in talking with him, you can't really tell from just looking at this in the plan view here, but the trail along Grasso Park, there's some slopes to it. So they go up to about 4.5%. Some are flatter, some are steeper, but we tried to follow really the grade of the existing ground to minimize disturbance and minimize any construction footprint. So the slopes go up to about 4.5%, and you really don't want to have soft surface trails that are above 3%, just from an erosion standpoint. So his concerns with doing a soft surface trail here are both erosion, and then if you're trying to achieve ADA accessibility, they need to be plowed, and you really don't plow soft surface trails. So he did have concerns about that.
And Deb, that percentage number, is that based on a 10-foot trail or a narrowed 8-foot trail?
It's along the path of the trail, so it doesn't matter either way.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you. You're going
Yep.
east to west, not north to south.
Exactly, and an 8-foot trail would work. He said, you can really have any width of trail you want, but if you're going to be plowing it, the 8-foot tends to be the minimum of what's helpful for the plowing.
So because we haven't really been involved in any of this, I'm going to probably ask some stupid questions that you're going to go, oh, well, we already told staff that. But my question is, why in particular are we running the trail, and in all respects to the Historical Commission, because I don't know what they know that I don't know, but I'd like to understand better why the trail's being run so tight in the space between the historical building and the creek when we don't have structures that run through the middle of the park. And maybe this is not even a viable solution, but I'm more concerned about these two historic buildings. There is equipment in there that, maybe we could reposition, but I'm concerned about this tight position right next, I love it when we can hard surface trails. I love it being ADA compliant. What concerns me is the impact on potentially this building and the proximity to the building. So I'd like to understand better why we could not have looked at any alternate positioning of the concrete trail.
Right, so are you looking like around here? Is that what you're saying?
That's just an option. I don't, I mean, I didn't see any other alternate plans. I was not on the board when this was approved as a low water thing, and I wasn't even really aware of this design until this summer. So I'd just like to understand, because we didn't have any public meetings on it, why we chose to go along the outside edge as opposed to the middle of the park. And the Historical Commission might want to kill me for even suggesting that, so.
No, that's a great question. And when you look at this in a plan view, it looks like a great spot to put it. If you look a little closer, which you haven't had the opportunity to do, there are contours up here. So there's a bunch of slope that happens right here. So this is kind of like a flatter pitch, and then it starts to slope up. So
That's right, it
putting
does.
that trail, you can't really come through these buildings. We can't really come up here because right there, we would hit a really steep slope, and that negates the whole purpose of the ADA accessibility.
So since we're on that topic, one thing I had suggested was at least looking at leaving the trail in the position that it was and what alterations could be done to bring it into, bring it into compliance. That would be perfect world. The blind spot that gets mentioned, from what I can tell, is a pine tree. Somebody said a fence, but it's a pine tree that's sitting right there. You're up there, you got this massive tree right in your way, you can't see down there. That trail under the bridge is, how wide is that? Because there's 3 feet, 3 feet that's sort of blocked off by the rocks, by this rock wall that's, or that's sitting up there along the edge. And it just sort of blocks that 3 feet of that trail.
I could bring the
again,
mural pictures back up. I'm not sure
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the width. I
but
mean,
it's a couple
I would
feet.
guess.
Yeah, maybe not 3, maybe
I mean, I
more
think
than
the
one.
trail surface itself is probably 7 or 8 feet wide.
Oh, God, under the bridge? It's got to be 10, 12. It's wide.
Yeah.
It's really wide. And
Oh,
it
so you're
goes,
talking about after you get beyond.
well, so you're under the bridge, right? Bear with me, I'll get it. You're under the bridge, and it's whatever it is. I'm going to say 12 because it's really wide. And then our rock wall, that retaining wall, we've got all these big boulders and rocks that come down about 3 feet over that trail. And again, just before I go on, I would have liked to have had these discussions a year or two ago. I'm angry that we didn't have them, but now we're trying. So that, I don't know what can be done with that retaining wall and that tree that's blocking views. People talk about cars backing out of the parking lot. That is a parking lot. That's not a road. I mean, I know it's First Avenue, but it dead ends into Town Hall. We can do whatever we want with that. We can put cars on the other side so that the trail can run right up in front of the historic bungalow, right? And go right by it, which is honestly where Historic Commission would love it. They have water out there. They encourage bikers to stop, right? That's what they do. It's a great way to get people in to understand that park. And I don't know what it would take to take that grade. And, I mean, I'm sure it would cost more. I don't know. But I have no idea because we've never talked about it. Take that retention wall back. Then 2 things happen. One, if we can achieve the grade, I'd just like somebody to look at it and see what it would take to do it. That would be great. And then in addition, it's wide enough that now we separate bikes and pedestrians, and you keep the bikes on the right side of that, and you keep pedestrians on the left, whether you want to bring them up a small path, that's green lines, whatever, we've got these massive green lines on Rock Creek Parkway, just distinguishing from bikes. It allows us to physically separate pedestrians and bikers. There are several options that this community has so many smart people, right, that are engaged and are engaged, right, on the board, in the town, been here a long time, come from various backgrounds, and none of us have had a chance to talk about this. And I know there are options that should have been discussed. So that's the one I'm sort of interested in understanding. I mean, you can try to speak to it now, but I'd sure like to know if there's a way to do that and continue that up. So.
I think it might be helpful to provide a little context of the background of this, since Brandon wasn't an employee of the town at that time. And so,
yeah, and Brandon knows I have no slight. I understand that he's
Yeah.
new. I get it. A lot of this.
Yeah.
We have got about 30 to 40 hours between my wife and I trying to figure out how this happened. So we have all the detail. I know who was here. I know who signed things. I know who made statements and know what got mixed up. We kind of figured out where that all happened and somewhat why. It doesn't make it any less concerning, but get all that for sure.
Do you want me to explain or no? Okay.
Go ahead.
So the original project started off to look at upstream and downstream of this site has been modified. The channel has been modified by various projects. So the district and Mile High Flood District and the town wanted to look at, is this section healthy? Do we need to do anything? Now's the time. So we looked at it, and from a stream perspective, the stream is healthy, the stream is stable. It fared well during the 2013 flood events, so it's in good shape. Part of the project then was also a crossing and a connection. And so at the time, the best spot appeared to be closer to McCaslin, or the desired spot was there. It was partly because there was more of a gap in the trees. It was thought that we wouldn't have to do permitting with FEMA because it was so close to the bridge, that maybe we wouldn't really have any floodplain impacts. That turned out not to be the case. And then once the fire happened, the project kind of stopped for a while for obvious reasons. More important things were happening. And we went back and looked at the site, like lo and behold, there's a perfect path right here. And it seemed to make sense with, utilizing the Rogers Farm sidewalks that they had put in. So that's, at that time, there was an alternatives analysis that was done that looked at what are the options at the east and what are the options at the west, what do they cost? Because the thought was, oh, is a bridge going to be far more expensive and that sort of thing. So there was an alternatives analysis done, and the town selected to move forward with a bridge.
Do we have access? There was no public engagement around any of these alternative
Right.
discussions.
But that, just so you know, that work was completed. I mean, we have the supporting documents for all that stuff.
Okay, that's good to know.
And at that time, we were at a conceptual level of design, so we hadn't figured out 100% how everything worked and make sure it did work. And at that time, what it looked like was the low water crossing. You can only have that crossing so high off the bottom of a channel before you've got safety problems. And so the combination of coming down from the sides of, from the north and from the south, coming down, and then the top of the crossing, and then the bottom of the channel, all those things, three things playing together, that's what really also helps sway. It might make more sense to have a bridge. So that's kind of how that decision was made. There were different options looked at that trail, the intersection there. There's, the bikes can come blow by on there. So the landscape architects, who have a lot more expertise than I do in terms of trail routing and safety issues, that was the suggestion to let's retool this area and make it safer for both pedestrians and bikes. So we did look at things like, to get that area compliant, we'd probably need some switchbacks to get down to that trail. The section of trail that comes out from under the underpass is not in compliance with ADA, and therefore this area here needs to be lower, because we can't do anything with the area that's already under the bridge. And so then that creates even more slope, another foot or so to make up. So that's kind of just how these design elements came about.
Any additional questions for?
I do have a question, but it's not about the path. I don't want to derail the conversation. It's about the parking lot. So happy to go ask my questions about that parking lot if no one else has questions about the path.
Why don't you go for the parking lot? I'm sure we're going to be going all around, bouncing all around tonight, so.
Yeah, so I'd like to know more about the parking lot. I mean, there's literally the staff memo, there's no mention of the parking lot, and obviously the January 2021 meeting that Mark and I were there for was in the consent agenda. There was no mention of parking lots or paving of parking spaces. So I'm trying to connect the dots here between what was discussed back in 2021, what was in the Boulder Daily Camera article, what was discussed with the committees, because the parking lot seems to be glaringly sort of overlooked. I'm a little confused about what and why we're paving a parking lot.
Yeah, so the path as designed comes across Coal Creek and then comes up and connects to West William Street. So that connection is to get folks coming from South Original Town and Rogers Farm, and I don't know the exact number of households in there. There's 100 plus getting that connection, so if they wanted to keep going north to the marketplace, it connects that too. So the parking lot currently, I don't have the distance, but it's pretty close to the museum, and the HVAC unit for the museum is here, and actually the slope from the parking lot actually goes toward the museum and creates some drainage issues. So to get this path from the bridge to West William Street, it had to be located within the parking lot because there wasn't sufficient space. There's also a couple of trees here that are being protected that would have to be removed. So that's why the path was extended, and that's why the parking lot became part of the project. So with the path going through the parking lot, we looked at keeping the spots kind of shown here in this conceptual design, but that didn't work from a connection standpoint. So the current design that's included in the board packet does show some parallel parking on both the east and west side of First Avenue. With that, we're able to keep the same number of spots and the same number of handicap spots. The one benefit of including it in this project is Mile High Flood District's going to pay for 50% of the paving of First Avenue here, which is currently a mixture of pavement and millings, and it's not in the best shape. So that is one benefit, because we will get kind of a new paved parking area included, but that's why it was added as part of this project. I will also add that we do realize when we add parallel parking, it could create some traffic down this alley. So I know the alley project is something we'll discuss in December, but we are going to propose to the board concrete paving this alley, since we're going to be paving some of the alleys in original town in the future. And we would recommend doing this alley as well to improve that, since there could be additional traffic going down it. But that's some of the background there, Neil.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, I'll just ask again, maybe, why parallel parking as opposed to pull-in parking?
Yeah, so with the pull-in parking, it was getting pretty tight, and Deb, you can help remind me. I know we looked at pull-in parking alternatives. I think the only way to do it was to do 45-degree angle parking, and to maintain the parking without being parallel. There were pros and cons to both. One of the concerns was potentially having traffic and headlights aimed toward a residential property, which could exist now. That was one of the things we considered. But we could look at doing angled parking. I think that there wasn't sufficient room once we put the path in to do the 90-degree angle parking and keep those flow lines for two-way traffic. So we could look at, but we could do 45-degree angle parking instead of parallel. Did I miss anything there?
I think there was an alternatives analysis done for the parking area as well by our transportation engineers. And I think some of the decisions also played into the fact of the direction of traffic flow through the alley. So that played into a lot of, I don't recall the specifics of it. That's not my expertise, but we can certainly bring more information about the alternatives and options discussed.
And I think, I forgot too, the parallel parking gave us an opportunity to get some separation between the path and the cars. So I think we have a 3-foot landscape buffer between there. So with the parallel parking, it obviously takes up less width. So it gave us a little bit more room to get that buffer between cars and the path. So if someone pulled in, they weren't going to be blocking the path. You can pull in so far that your bumper's hanging over the path. So that was some of the drivers behind it. Does that make sense?
And if I can go back to I'm sorry, we're going to bounce, I know we're going to bounce around here, but if I can go back to the trail. So another, and I don't know if I'm pointing at the right place, is this the existing, is this?
It's close to that. This project was going to make some changes to that, but that's, yeah, approximately.
Where are we coming out from under the bridge? Is that back here?
Yeah, approximately, yeah.
And then we basically come up to First now, right? I mean, this doesn't look right. That is not a right turn from what it's not that hard of a right, I guess. Currently? Okay. So if we just left this for the bikes, we can clean up the visual. I don't think there's a problem. That tree needed to be trimmed back. I think we could clear up the visual, but could we consider bringing, if we kept pedestrians on the creek side and brought them partly into Grasso, and I know there's a big depression right here. I've been all through in there, but is there any way that we can have a smaller trail that allows pedestrians in an ADA way to come up, without coming back here and messing with this? It's just such a nice area. It's such a pristine area. It's very cool. And bring them up, to the bungalow, which is kind of where we would want people to come, and then they can just come on up and around and across the bridge and just just follow this route and not create this disturbance, right? And so that was just another thought I had, was let the bikes do what they're doing, don't change this. Put pedestrians on the creek side, bring them in, and can we bring them up through the park in a little softer way, I guess?
And I'll let Deb chime in too. I mean, my understanding for talking to the design team and what they looked at is the only way to get ADA compliance to West William Street from the existing path, or even if you extend it down here, due to the grades, is to do a switchback trail.
Right.
So a switchback trail would be very difficult. I mean, you can see the tight contours. There's a large slope.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to do a switchback trail through Grasso Park. or maybe that is an option. But it'd have to be a switchback trail to get from West William Street down here and be
For
under
walkers, yeah.
be under the 5%. And I think our sidewalk guidelines are 5 foot minimum in town now. Anything to add?
All right. Additional questions for staff? All right, I want to give the opportunity for the public to comment. So anybody here in the boardroom like to give public comment on this proposal? I know we've already heard from many of you. You're welcome to give public comment again on this item.
Good evening. My name is Amy Crease. I'm a resident of the town of Superior. Thank you all for the opportunity to take a look at this and comment on it this evening. I wanted to say how excited I am about this proposal. My husband and I live in downtown Superior, and we walk and ride over to the marketplace all the time and have had a lot of really scary encounters as we're going under the underpass. And I also think that the bridge is a really great way to bring the Rogers Farm and original town communities into downtown. As we've gone through years of public comment about a thriving downtown Superior, I think one of the key things about its virility will be having people have easy access to it. And I think that this goes a long way to improve access to downtown, and also allows us just to connect our communities a little better. But yeah, I think that to provide a more inclusionary experience in Grasso Park would be a great thing. So I'm excited about the ability for those with mobility issues to get down to the park, but I'm also excited about how this could connect our communities and give everyone a chance to, if you have to cross at McCaslin and Marshall, that's pretty daunting. The roundabout is a hard pass for me. I'm not going to try to walk around the roundabout. So going under the underpass is really the safest way to get there, and it still doesn't feel very safe. And to the point about, the children having to walk across that Second Street Bridge, I've had to walk across it myself, and even I am uncomfortable walking across that bridge when there are cars passing. So I think that the fact that, the bridge is already delivered, like we're ready to roll, right? Let's just get this thing done. It just feels very exciting to me. So I just wanted to come and offer my support for the initiative. I think it's a great plan. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments. Additional public comment?
Yeah, I'm Mike Newstead. I'm at 212 West William. I really learned a lot tonight by talking with people here and hearing the feedback and seeing the presentation. I guess just in opposition as to what was just said, I think we're not ready to roll. I think it's definitely worth not even necessarily more public feedback, but just a closer look at what those alternative options are. And I was really intrigued with what Bob was saying, and while maybe those aren't necessarily feasible solutions, I think there's just the fact that it hasn't necessarily gone through a full vetting process. I think there's a need to do that before making a decision. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Additional public comment here in the boardroom. Come on up.
Hello, Diane Hughes again. I live next door to this path that we are looking at putting in. And I just want to say that if you stick with this plan, and I would like to see what other options there are, because I think there are other options. But if we stick with something that looks like this, what can be done to discourage cars from going down the alley? And what can be done to discourage bike riders from also going down the alley? In particular, the electric bikes. I have seen electric bikes almost run over a woman with a stroller on right now. So what can we do to keep that traffic off of the alley? Is there anything we can do? That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Additional public comment here in the boardroom. Mr. Kufner.
What's that?
Mr. Kufner.
Thank you. George A. Kufner, resident 40 years here. I'm looking at this. This is a great thing that we have here. Brandon, can you tell me the percentage that Mile High Flood District is going to pay right now and the portion on the money? How much money? Dollar bills? $625,000. That's great. Okay, and where are we at on, we'll call it Rogers Farm? What's the percentage? 13?
12, I believe.
12, and what's the percentage on the money?
It's 150K.
150K, and what do we got to pay rest-wise? The town's got to kick in.
I'd have to do the math. 375.
So we're talking over 300,000, 400,000. That's great money spent. Even if it's $500,000 or $600,000, that's great money spent here in town. It is ADA compliant. For special needs people, anybody that has a special need that's ADA compliant, that is a number one priority. Number one priority in this town as elected officials should be public safety, number one, for our residents. To connect from Rogers Farm to Old Town Superior to the Superior Marketplace. I like this. This looks great. This is awesome. Understand you got to listen to everybody's feelings and thoughts about what is going to work great for this town. These people put time and effort into this. If we have to, go back to 2021 board meeting, pull up the minutes and the agendas and see who voted on this. And see what the rubber foot stamp plan on that is and see where it complies to this. Do your due diligence, look at your time, and I think this is a proper fit. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your comments. Additional public
And for the
comment.
record, it was in the consent agenda, so the whole board voted for it. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You'll shop. Thank you.
Mr. Kufner.
Another George Kufner. I think this is a great way to get people to the marketplace, to get people into Rogers Farms and all that. And we can sit and talk about it. And what we're trying to do now, or what somebody's trying to do, is kick the can down the road, which is okay, but it's going to cost us more money. Sooner or later, the federal money's going to leave. And then we won't end up with it, or where are we going to come up with that money? We have the money. It was on a consent agenda, so everybody knew what they were voting for back then. Mark, you were on the board. You know what I'm saying is it was okay back then. We have a few people that are worried about, they don't want an Old Town or Grass Hose, the old buildings. A park is to play in or to be in. If it was a garage, we just build walls around it, put a roof on it. And then nobody could go in it. We have a baseball park because we play in it. What good does it do for us to have a park that we're not supposed to go in or look at the old buildings? Come on. We have them now. We should enjoy them now, because if we get a bad flood, they'll be gone. If we had another fire, we would hope not, but if they were gone, they're gone. So what we did have is gone, and we can't I would have loved to look at them, but now they're gone. Well, once they're gone, they're gone. So why not let the people enjoy them? Instead of kicking the can down the road, spend a bunch more money, how many more hours in the boardroom, me sitting there waiting to talk, when we've already voted on it once. Let's get it done. Let's get something done for the people. And I do think it needs to be ADA compliant, because if it's not, it's silly. You're looking at a guy that's got a pair of phony knees, and how long will it be before I'm in a chair? And I might want to go down there if I live to be 80 or 90 years old. And I'm not going to be able to because this board decided we would need a soft trail. Will you ever try to push a wheelchair in a soft trail? It's just short of impossible. So I think we need to vote. We've already voted on it. I don't know why we're bringing it up again. Let's do it. It's already paid for. The bridge is here. We got money already allocated through the federal guys. Let's take their money and get it done. We can always make little improvements later, but let's get the majority of it done now. We have the money, let's get her done. Got a contract, and how much is it gonna cost us if we pull out of this contract? Are we gonna have to pay him his full contract price because we can the contract that we signed with him? So let's instead of kicking the can, it's got plenty of dents in it, let's build it. And see what the rest of the people in town think. Because it's a great idea. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments.
Before Miss, any more, so comment was made about this being approved.
Yeah,
in
just for the record,
2021.
this design wasn't approved.
Right, I want that to be, nobody knew anything about this bridge or this trail in 2021.
That's correct.
And then the budget for it has increased, right? The budget changed. I know at least $75,000 was added by the town somewhere in the middle of all this. Is that, just really don't like misinformation. I like things to be correct.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that on.
Just
kind of
want to be
board
clear
discussion,
that
but yeah.
this was not approved. Yes, the Mile High
Correct.
Flood District, flood mitigation, that's what this was all about.
Correct.
There were light discussions about low water crossing that never anything about a trail and a bridge. So this is the first we're all hearing this. Okay, just want to be clear.
All right, additional public comment?
I was wondering, to me, when I first heard about this project, I thought that bridge at that angle might be coming across the creek close to the McCaslin underpass and then tie into the already existing concrete path on the south side of the creek. And I was wondering if that was considered, or if that is a possible option yet. Was it considered as a possible option?
We didn't really look at a bridge, well, the bridge doesn't fit as well closer to McCaslin, but we did originally look at having the trail extend all the way to the low water crossing to the east,
All the way up to what?
to a low water crossing on the east.
Yeah. Instead of the low water crossing, could it be the bridge that's here and delivered already?
I don't know that it really fits physically.
Okay,
I think we have discussed that.
okay.
All right, thanks for your comments, Larry. Additional public comment here in the boardroom?
Hello, my name is April Burt, and I live in downtown Superior. I guess I'm just confused as to what the major issue is, because I'm hearing a few concerns. Is the issue that we're going too close to the park? Is the issue that there's going to be too many cars going down the alley, or that now there's electric bikes that are going too fast that shouldn't be in the alley? I guess I'm just not sure what the main concern is, because the concept, it seems like everyone agrees with, is perfect. I mean, we're talking about safety for our community. We're talking about promoting mobility and being accessible to wheelchairs and those today who have no option. We're talking about enhancing really public health. More people are on the trails, they're riding their bikes, they're walking, improving the economy, getting people downtown Superior. We're talking about the, fostering the cohesion of the communities. So I guess I'm just confused, being somewhat new in the community, maybe 5 years, what the major concern is. Is it that people aren't feeling included because the options of the trail weren't presented? Because it seems like we could just do that. I mean, let's present, there's professionals clearly that have reviewed all the options. We're not landscapers or graders or we just structural engineers. I mean, so it just seems like we would be able to review that and address what the major concern is here. Because I'm confused as a resident, because it just seems like this is a no-brainer. So maybe we could get back to what the two top main concerns are. Because electric bikes, I have one, and I've almost been hit by an electric bike. But that's not the issue. electric bikes shouldn't be speeding down alleys and streets, so that seems like a separate topic, although they happen to cross paths. So that's all. From a resident standpoint, I'm just confused as what the major concern is here. So thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else in the boardroom?
The sheet is full. Good evening. My name is Rainer Kunz. I'm a Superior resident. My comment is short. I'm in full support of that project because I simply think it makes sense. It's that easy. We want to be a modern town. We need infrastructure for people. We have different parts of the town now, and they have to be connected in a modern way, which means pedestrians have to be able to go there. In particular, people with impaired mobility have to be able to go there, and this solves the problem that they can actually go to different places. Once there are more shops, etc., in downtown, then the people from Rogers Farm, even if they have mobility impairment, can go there very easily. So it simply makes sense to do that. I do understand the concern of bikes being too fast. I think some bikers think this is racetracks where they are biking, but that's not just a problem of this development. It's a general problem everywhere. And I think this has to be addressed in a broader way, that bikes have to slow down where people also walk. So, as I said before, I think it makes sense. Go and do it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else here in the boardroom? All right, seeing none, I'm going to turn to Zoom, and we've got Rita Trainer. You're recognized for public comment.
I'd just like to say that I am, as a resident, a more recent resident of Superior, I'm very much in favor of this. One of the issues for me, who walks through this area with my husband and our dog, is that when we cross over at the Charles Avenue Bridge, we can't always hear. And we'd much rather have a safer crossing. That's all I have to offer.
Thanks for your comments. Daryl McCool.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty late where I am. And I actually found internet. So I do have a few comments tonight. Discussion about whether a trail should go through Grasso Park or a bridge across First Avenue is not what should be discussed tonight. What should be discussed is the fact that a signed IGA has not been followed. This board has not seen or approved a final design. Per the IGA, they are to review all concept plans, preliminary design plans, and final plans and specifications. What should be discussed are the budget implications. How did the original $400,000 commitment from the town in 2021 balloon to a $625,000 commitment without the board knowing this fact or seeing any budget expenses for this project? On March 22nd, 2024, the town manager included an update of this project to you board members in his weekly digest. The paragraph about the project in the digest is so short on details, it does not even mention the proposed regional trail connection through Grasso Park or the additional $75,000 commitment added and signed for by the town manager on March 21st, 2024. I'm struggling to understand how expenditures didn't rise to the level of alerting the board. I've been looking into this project for over a month, and I've been stonewalled by the manager, the town manager, the assistant manager, the public works director, and the Director of Parks and Recs when I asked directly if this project hadn't been approved by the town board. And now I'm actually hearing from the design team that they have supporting documents for all of this, which I have asked for and not ever been given. As trustees and elected officials, there's an understanding that part of your job is to listen to residents' concerns. I'm completely disheartened by the behavior of some. Instead of trying to understand my concerns, that this plan has not been approved by the board or the budget and the budget that has been expanded beyond the original amount, they chose to rather focus on pushing this plan through regardless of facts. Forgive me if I think we should be able to trust our trustees to do their job, be good stewards of policy, procedure, and our taxpayer money, and willing to take time to listen and understand a resident's concern. I'm actually really disappointed by staff's response or lack of response to my questions and concerns as well. This is no way to treat a resident. We as a community have so much pride in our parks and public spaces because of community involvement creating them. The signed IGA stating that community outreach would happen. I'm sorry a bridge has been ordered. This is a costly mistake, but that should not outweigh the clear directive of the IGA, a legally binding agreement to hold public meetings to solicit input before the board approves the final design and construction starts. I'd like to end with saying that Grasso Park survived the 2013 flood and the 2021 fire when little else of historic significance in Superior did. If you take the time to wander down by original Homestead House, you realize it's a gem of a place. The quiet and solitude help transport you back to the 1800s. You can almost imagine walking down the creek to gather water for cooking or laundry or to feed the farm animals. There are so few places in Colorado that look and feel like this historic, quaint, beautiful park. Before we alter that forever, let our community have a say, and the board also needs to approve these plans. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Rachel Tittle.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Rachel Tittle. I'm a downtown Superior resident, and I'm in support for the Cold Creek pedestrian crossing. I think that we need this connectivity that will provide additional safety for bikes and pedestrians, while I also agree that e-bikes are something that we do need to address, but that's a much broader issue. I also think this bridge will provide ADA access, which is really needed and also required. It will pull people through different parts of the town and hopefully provide more connectivity for the art path. And so I would ask that you do approve this bridge. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Stefano Prezioso.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thanks. My name is Stefano Prezioso. I'm a downtown Superior resident. Also wanted to voice my support for this plan as is. I think it's a beautiful and sensible plan. I love that it's ADA compliant. I think it helps increase the accessibility, not just of the pathways, but of the historic structure and the park as a whole, which I think will just help as one of the previous residents was speaking to, really enjoy the area and the beauty that it has to offer. I oftentimes will ride and I think ride my bike through there. And I think it's a great way to increase both connectivity from the downtown Superior side over to kind of the Old Town side of Superior and the marketplace, as well as to some of the connecting trails in Boulder County open space. And I think just all in all, it's an excellent plan, and I really look forward to moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Up next is Rachel P.
Hi, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Rachel Prezioso. I'm also a resident of downtown Superior. I just wanted to voice my support for this. I very much agree with the sentiment of an earlier gal who spoke and said, I'm just speaking to some confusion about why this has turned into such a big deal. It seems like the town has done a lot of great job in doing their due diligence and working with professionals and experts on how to maintain the area, the beauty of it, as well as making it safer and adding connectivity there, as well as being financially responsible in bringing in the Mile High to help with a lot of those budgetary concerns. From what I'm hearing, it seems like the only issues here are really that maybe we're not as informed as some people would like, and also maybe that we're just wanting to preserve a historic area, but I'm fully in favor that historic areas should also be enjoyed. So I'm also a nurse by trade, and I really think that adding that connectivity will help with like public safety, keeping our children safe, and also really just like increase the mobility of our community and being able to walk, being able to commute. I think it's a sustainable option as well as we are moving towards a more green future so that we can continue to protect those beautiful spaces. So all in all, just wanted to voice my support.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else on Zoom like to give public comment? If so, use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you if I see your hand up. All right, seeing none. Circle back to the boardroom. Anybody last opportunity for public comment? Dalton Blatt.
Hello, Dalton Villette. Just a quick clarification on one of the previous slides. History of Colorado has recommended to do an additional site visit just to evaluate the area. And from the cover memo as well, detailed from town staff, Metcalf archaeological consultants would need to visit the site and perform a Class 1 analysis to confirm that no impacts with the trail as currently designed would occur, and they would need to provide a scope for a Class 1 analysis and a consultation that would take around 3 to 4 weeks. So again, the Historical Commission is kind of an opinion. We can't give a formal recommendation on this just because we're still evaluating some additional insight from History of Colorado and other archaeological organizations just to assess the viability of this and the proximity of the trail with some of these structures that can't be moved. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else in the boardroom? Last chance. All right, seeing none, public comment is closed, and we'll turn back to the board for discussion.
I'd like to clear up a couple things. There were comments about, why is this coming up now and what is the issue? There's some confusion around what the major concern is. There are 2 or 3 major concerns that this was discovered. Construction would have begun and your Historic Commission would have been sitting in a meeting going, what in the heck is going on inside of Grasso Park? We know nothing about this, and there had been bulldozers going through there. That would have been awful. That would have been a lot worse than what we're dealing with today. The other thing is that when this community comes together to look at a project, and the experts and our staff get to hear all of the concerns of the community before they start working on design options, they can try to address them. And now we're sitting here faced with a project that almost had bulldozers showing up had my wife not discovered this project and brought it to the forefront. And we're having to look at this after the fact. That's the concern. And when I ran for trustee 2 years ago, that was primarily my platform, is to make sure that things were crystal clear, that everybody knew what was going on, for good or for bad. That 2nd Avenue Bridge, don't like it. Why it got made so narrow, don't know. There were people in town who wanted it, and it went through a public process, and it got done that way. Now we're sitting here wishing it wasn't, and we're wishing it was it would have been great if it were wider and had a sidewalk, right? For good or for bad. But we had an opportunity to discuss it. The experts got to hear from the community. The staff gets to hear from the community. And now we're faced with a bridge that's been purchased. And we're having to try to look back and figure out what the heck to do. And I'm deeply concerned that this happened. And so for those of you who are wondering how we got here and why we're here, that's why. So we'll work it through. That's what we're here to try to do. But there's really good reason for why this has come up.
Others? Jason?
Yeah, we are at an interesting time with this. I mean, we are here now, and the money's allocated, and I think as Mr. Kuffner said, wisely so, the money's available now to spend the money and move this along, and if we don't do this and we kick the can down the road, how much more is it going to be? Because like a gentleman said earlier today about the fire and the fact he can't rebuild his house, construction costs keep going up, he's having a problem with State Farm, he doesn't know what to do. My concern is if we keep punting this down the road too far, are we ever going to do it? Are we ever going to have the funds available to do it? Because the biggest thing for me with this is not necessarily the bridge, it is the ADA access. We desperately need this. This town is so short on ADA access. We don't have it. We don't have any ADA access. For anybody with mobility issues, in order to cross over to downtown, if they wish to choose to go to Main Street, they have to go up to Marshall and cross at Marshall McCaslin. And as someone said earlier, that is a daunting challenge. Or they have to go down to the roundabout at Main and McCaslin, which is even worse. I mean, you take your life in your own hands going into that roundabout. Nobody slows down, nobody looks for pedestrians, and God forbid you're in mobility limitation issues where you're in a wheelchair or a walker or even a cane. You're taking your life in your own hands. So, you know, the path is of the utmost importance. And I hear a couple of conversations and I can see the contours. And as an architect, I can tell you right now that path, the way it is the only option that is going to work. A switchback in the park will eat up the entire park. If you guys want to have maybe a place where kids someday can just go grinding their skateboards on the ramps, that's what you're going to get, because that entire area of grass there will be gone. You won't have a park. You'll have buildings, you'll have a skate park, and then you'll have the History Museum on top. You know, there's no simple way to do this other than what's shown on the board here. I mean, before you had the bridge in the low water crossing, and that they thought was going to work, and then they deemed it wasn't going to work. So it got pushed to the southwest, and now the bridge is in the location where it is, and we have ADA access. And I know there is talk about this is going to destroy the buildings. This is going to bring vandals. It's going to bring graffiti artists. But I hate to tell you, there's not too many people in a wheelchair that go graffitiing on buildings. It's ambulatory people, and those people have access to this park right now, and we don't see any graffiti or anything on it. So I think that's just pushing an issue on this just to keep any progress from happening. These buildings are not going to be damaged by this path. They will actually help this path. It'll help the buildings. This concrete walk actually is going to act as a buttress. It will create a separation from the creek to the buildings, and it will also mitigate subsurface soil degradation. It will protect these buildings much further into the future. It's a benefit by putting the creek path where it is. You're getting ADA access. It just seems like you've gotten everything we could possibly ask for here. And of the greatest thing that this gives us, it gives us a sense of inclusivity finally, because Original Town's not off by itself anymore. It is connected to downtown now. People can come back and forth. They can go to Original Town, they can go to downtown. It connects it to the park, and it connects the Wee Cottages and Rogers Farm, and it just really enhances a sense of connectivity, which we have not had before here. And this is something I think is very, very important for this town, because we need to have a much, much better sense of neighborliness, right? We need to be able to say we are one community rather than we're this neighborhood, we're that neighborhood, we're over here. We're the entirety of Superior, not just one pocket neighborhood. Now, for how we got here and what we have to do regarding the process, I don't know. But we started off a few years ago, a consent agenda, agreed to do it, and then the design changed. So I think we're at the rational solution, whereas even if we were to go back through the process and we were to post it and we were to give you guys notice and we give public comment again, this would probably pass. This is the ultimate solution that we can probably expect in this area. And I don't see any other way that it can change. Maybe the parking could be looked at again, but that's up top, and that has nothing to do with the ADA access. And then, of course, the other big thing that we're talking about tonight, the blind spot, is we remove the blind spot and we make it a much, much safer area for people on bicycles, people that are walking back and forth. I can't find too many faults with this, and I can't think of any other ways to improve it. I have studied this intensely. I've tried to figure out, is there a way to move the path up? Can you put it to the north? You can't. The grade is the grade unless you did some massive amount of earthwork. And earthwork is tremendously expensive. This is a drop in the bucket compared to what it would be to move earth around to do something else. I just don't see any other way, and this seems to me like the best option.
Jen?
So I just want to remind everybody to keep some positive intent in the time when these decisions were made that didn't go the way they were supposed to by staff. It was right after the fire. Everybody was focused on the fire recovery. And so if there was a time for there to be a mistake made in the process, that was definitely the time. And so I don't like their kind of undertones that this was nefarious. This was a design change that I'm sure staff was like, this can be adjusted. We don't need to, residents couldn't even meet to discuss anything else at that time. And there was this project pending that staff could say, okay, we can keep this moving. We don't have to stop what everybody else is doing to focus on this. And so I really want people to remember that this isn't, that wasn't a time that somebody was like, "Ooh, what can I get away with here?" Like that, there was no intent to be secretive or not transparent. They were just trying to move things along as best they could. And in this process, even if now, so I was on the board then, but I'm here now, and we have this bridge and we have this plan, right? And so sometimes when we discuss, well, there wasn't transparency or there wasn't public input, my next question is, okay, well, what's the end goal? Are we going to stop this project now and go back to the beginning and do public input only to end up exactly where we are now? Because we have had an overwhelming amount of responses for people that are like, I love this, do it. And so it's frustrating that there are strategies to come try to, disturb this or slow it down or have a gotcha in the technical side of what the staff did or didn't do. We've got the bridge, it's here. And I think, I've spent a lot of time talking to residents about this, and many of them have the same response that the woman that was speaking who's new here, I don't understand. This is trails, this is ADA, this is all the things that this town is about. Why is there a problem here? And I think that the quiet part that no one says out loud is that there are also folks in the original town area that are not interested in more people having access, more cars having access, more trail connectivity. That's not what they want. And so I think that for me is the only way to understand why it's confusing, why it would seem confusing, is if you don't understand that key part of it, that there is a small group of folks in that area that would like to see no things developed and no one coming in and out and shut it down so cars can't come and people can't walk. And so I think staying true to our intent as the safety keepers of the community, the leveraging other people's money to create trail connectivity, which is a huge priority for our town, and keeping people more safe. All of this makes sense to keep doing this. We have no information that says there's going to be a change in designation for historical nature of anything. And I know that however this project develops, it's going to keep the utmost care for those buildings and that area. And so I feel 100% comfortable with moving forward with this.
Thanks, Jen. Neil?
Sure. So, I think we've kind of all share a lot of our concerns about the process here, but, I am super disappointed that this fell through fell far short of what our expectations are in process. I think as a town, we try to do very well with our process. We owe our community an opportunity to weigh in. I do vaguely recall this discussion about the IGA in January 2021. It was on the consent. Mark pulled it because he was very concerned about potential trees getting cut down, and that was it. Alex was very open that we're not going to cut down any trees, and we would bring this back for any and all conversations. The fact is, this happened in January 2021, and there was 11 months before the Marshall Fire, and nothing came to the board, nothing came to the community. The Marshall Fire did happen, and obviously, lots of decisions got made after that because we actually told staff to focus on Marshall Fire recovery. That said, We still did hear the life science campus that year. We had a very robust engagement process, public notice, and everything else post-fire. Obviously, there's legal requirements on responding to an applicant's proposal, so we had to adhere to that. So, I don't think anyone would disagree that that was a tough year for anything, but we did still find a way to focus on fire recovery. We heard the life science campus, we saw a petition get filed and everything else. But the short of it is we need way better guardrails. Something like this cannot happen. The budget has gone up dramatically from the $800K that was approved back then. And there needs to be some better guardrails there too. But at the end of the day, there's no decision on the agenda for tonight. So, I've got issues with the design. Do I think it could be tweaked? Absolutely. Actually, more importantly, I think the goals for this project have shifted dramatically. What was started as a low water crossing has actually grown substantially with, a big increase in concrete, a metal bridge. And who's to say that at different points in the discussion, we would have all continued to move this forward. I don't get me wrong. I think that this bridge connects a part of town that is not connected right now. The 2nd Avenue Street is not a great connector, but at the same time, how we ended up here is not necessarily where maybe we wanted to be. ADA with access was never even discussed in 2021. I don't disagree here too that it is a net positive addition, but I've actually had 10 times more complaints about our ADA access at the Superior Community Center than I've had at this intersection. And we think about places that our community goes on a regular basis. I would much rather spend the money that needs to be spent to fix the community center's access. So Gladys stops yelling at me every time I see her. So I don't know where we go from here. I think we could continue to potentially iterate. I think staff's got some great ideas that need to be brought forward. The money's already spent. Let's be honest. The IGA's got spent. The town already gave the money to Mile High Flood District. The money's out the door. The question ultimately, what I don't even know is when do they break ground on this? The bridge, as Brandon showed us, is already done. It's been built. I'm not sure how much the total that cost is versus what needs to be left. But at the end of the day, I don't disagree that the cost may go up. But at the same time, there's still some open questions here on how do we potentially make this a little bit better and smooth over the edges here and truly have what's left of a public engagement process.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
Sandy?
I appreciate that we have a number of residents who are saying, I'm confused what the problem is. I'm confused, how do we get to this process, to this place? I've been involved with this town for over 10 years, first on the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and then as a trustee for 6 years. Absolutely, a huge goal of this town has always been connectivity of our neighborhoods and our trails, and to make our trails as great as they can be. However, I can't just accept that this is the only solution. The way we have always done business in this town is when we've had discussions about projects, we've asked, what are the other options? Are the other options more expensive? I certainly appreciate what Trustee Serbu is saying, that it'll be more money or it'll be, but until somebody proves it to me, it's my job to get the information to know what our options are. I have no problem with the bridge. Put the bridge in. The question becomes, how do we mesh the trail connectivity with the goals that we have as a historical community to preserve and protect our history? I don't know what the impact will be. I do know I was in a meeting, and there are monies that might be available to us to protect this, but we haven't had a real scientific study of this property to really talk about the impacts. I don't know where we go from here, but I don't know what the rush is to be, hell-bent on getting it done. I would like to see us look at whether there are other options. I certainly appreciate the need to eliminate the blind curve. The problem is now we've put in stairs and somebody can't access that part of town because an ADA person cannot go up those stairs. So they're going to have to go a different way. I certainly appreciate the lack of connectivity between Rogers Farm and the other side of the bridge. I'm not quite in the same place when it comes to downtown Superior, because when I go to downtown Superior, I park at Town Hall and I walk under and I go up through the park and go to downtown Superior that way. I absolutely appreciate the issue and the impact on Rogers Farm, but I think we have a very different perspective with downtown Superior. I think we need to look at this further. Think we need to give the Historical Commission the opportunity to have more time to look into this. Maybe there's an option. We can go ahead and install the bridge, and we have a crusher fine path until we figure out what our solution is. I don't know, but it disturbs me beyond all get out that we waived a process that we have made ourselves proud for as long as I've been in this town, that we engage the community. I am not faulting anyone for this, other than the fact that we should have known better as a town to do this the way we have done things in the past. And I personally believe we have not honored our public trust by not having long-term public engagement on this.
Thanks, Andy. Bob?
The undertones come from all of this, and I think it's hard to avoid them. The concerns of our historical commission are real. My desire for connectivity is as strong as anybody else's. My understanding of ADA compliance is as strong as anybody else's. We have discussed and wondered about connectivity from the south side of the creek for 20 of the 25 years, 27 years I've lived here. Why 3rd Avenue isn't there? Why 2nd Avenue wasn't built the width it was? I was thrilled that we were getting a bridge over to the south side of town. But like Trustee Shaw has said, and Trustee Hammerly, there's opportunity to look at this. I don't want to delay it. I'm not interested in delaying this thing for months. But like I said, we're not here to make a decision tonight. But I mean, even as I sit here, I come up with ideas. Can we drive pedestrian? Can we do a pedestrian trail through to Grasswood Park rather than making it a regional trail connection? Are there, there are plenty of ideas that can be discussed. I don't know what the process is to get us there, but people need to understand that the group of people that are concerned, although we're smaller than, of course, how could anybody think that the mass of downtown doesn't want strong connectivity over here? Of course you do. Of course you do. There's just no way. The volume, I mean, it's insane to think that we wouldn't want great connectivity between downtown and original town. But not when there are other concerns that could have been addressed a year or 2 years ago had this come forward when it should have. So we do need to stop. Not stop. Let me rephrase that. We do need to slow down and take a look at this and see if there are some options that produce a little bit of comfort around the impacts on Grasshoe Park, accomplish the ADA access between original town and downtown and south side of the creek, and see if we can come up with something that'll work. That's kind of where I'm at on this. Again, don't want to stop it. Want to take the time to do it right. I don't think the Historical Commission wants to stop it. I think they want to take the time to do it right. I can say that because I'm a liaison with them and I've talked with all of them. I think I can get a head nod or two out there. So, anyway, that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Bob. So I want to thank everybody for speaking during public comment, for all the thoughtful comments. I also want to thank Daryl and Bob, frankly, for all of your work to dig through all these records and kind of bring this to the board's attention. I don't have like an intention of like voicing an opinion one way or the other as to like whether or not I think that like this particular path design through Grasso Park is actually the right design or not. I think I think like to Jason's point, I think probably it is the only viable solution for ADA access. I think like I've walked Grasso Park twice over the past 3 days just to kind of really get a feel for it. And if you haven't done that recently, I suggest you do, because I think it really, looking at the plans just on a screen right now versus actually like walking on the site itself, you have a different experience in my opinion. And I have concerns about kind of how this trail, a concrete trail, would impact the park. And like ultimately, if the board decided that like, yes, this is something that we wanted to do, because like I love regional trail connectivity, and like if we can connect, downtown, the Coal Creek Trail out to Louisville and then all the way to the Boulder County open space, I think that that's a really good idea and something that would really, I think, improve. And I think that that's why a lot of people are excited about this, right? Like they love the idea, wow, I can hop on my mountain bike from my house in downtown Superior and like easily, without crossing, any major roadways, get into the Boulder County open space. And I think that that's a totally commendable objective. And maybe it's where we end up going. But, I'm a lawyer. I can't help being a lawyer. And I, believe that we need to have rules that need to be followed and a process that needs to be followed. And, what we approved back in, March of 2021 or January 2021 to Neil's point, I remember that discussion because that was back when Superior Commons was being built. And over like the course of one day, we had these huge cottonwood trees across McCaslin that were just cut down, and everybody lost their minds. And they were so pissed that we lost these huge cottonwoods along Coal Creek. And now we've got Superior Commons, which is a beautiful park, but it doesn't have any established large trees. So we had this meeting, and Mile High Flood was there, and we pulled it off the consent agenda. And I said, okay, well, let's just make sure that, as we're doing these creek improvements, none of those huge cottonwood trees get cut. And that was basically the scope of the discussion. We talked a little bit about, this low water crossing, but the design that we're looking at today is not the design that we looked at then. And it did change. There wasn't any talk about a bridge. There was talking about the low water crossing, and there wasn't any discussion about a trail through Grasso Park. So we need to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We need to be fiduciaries. And I'm with Jen. Like I don't assume any ill intent, and there was nothing like nefarious going on. I think everybody was dealing with the Marshall Fire recovery, and that was priority number one, and mistakes happen. But I think we still have a duty and obligation to try to make sure that, we're not doing things and just kind of like rubber stamping, well, it wasn't a perfect process, but here we are, so let's just move forward. I think we have the opportunity to not necessarily have like the perfect process that you would have if you were starting over from square one, but an opportunity to like take a step back and correct that process, get the necessary input from the advisory committees, from the Historical Commission, from History Colorado, from all the appropriate players to weigh in, from the community. I'd really like to see what the alternate plans are. That it sounds like they're already done, and people looked at them. They just weren't shared with us. They weren't shared with the town, and then we can make an informed decision. There is a bridge, and I think it would be wasteful for us not to use a bridge that's already bought and paid for and designed. So I think likely what's going to happen is that bridge is going to go there, but it doesn't necessarily need to go there next week. And it can go there at a time after there's been input. But we don't necessarily need to have that path through Rogers Farm, because I think that will impact the park. We might end up going there, but I think we need to have that discussion as to like, what are the alternatives? Can we have ADA access in some other way? If the answer to that is no, okay, well then maybe we're having like the informed decision about what our options are versus this is the plan that we were ready to bulldoze without, the actual public input that we typically would have. Because that's the thing, like in a design like this, typically we would have the engagement with the community, we'd have the public notice, we'd have opportunities to, really kind of fly spec this proposal versus the situation that we're in right now. And one of the reasons why we need to take, I think, the step back and just make sure that we're doing things appropriately is, this bridge was ordered without the board's approval, and while it's bought and paid for, it wasn't authorized by the board, and while there may be innocent explanations for that, you can imagine a situation where you actually have bad conduct going on by town staff, and one of our responsibilities as a board is to make sure that there's oversight, right? Like, what if there was a no bid contract given out to somebody that was related to a town staff member, and they built the bridge and they got a sweetheart deal on something like that? That would be something that we would typically review and make sure that there's public oversight, so nothing like that is actually happening. So, these are the sorts of things why we need to have a public process, and there needs to be kind of daylight on this whole situation. So I think where I'm at right now is I'm not comfortable with any work being done to disturb Grasso Park at all. Unless and until we have additional options that are brought to the board as alternatives, and then any of the advisory committees that want to weigh in on this proposal have the opportunity to weigh in. And then we can set it for another meeting where there's opportunity for public engagement. It's not perfect, but I think it gets us to the point where we're sufficiently communicating with the public, getting the input in from our residents and from our advisory committees, and then we can make a decision that isn't rushed. So that's kind of where my head's at. Additional thoughts, comments? Does that give staff adequate direction? I think we've got at least 4 that are in favor of like pumping the brakes right now, and
Not too hard, but yeah, let's slow it down. And do we have I'd like to have an opportunity to share. I've thought a lot about this. I don't know about others, but I would like some ideas that I've had to be at least considered and answered, and a couple of them were tonight. And that was some good information. But do we have an opportunity where we can just email you guys and say, hey, what about this? What about that? Is that okay with staff?
Feedback's always going to be welcome. Okay. I think the one item the pros director and the public works director noted was having a consultant come in and do a study.
Yeah, my takeaway from hearing the board is we'll do the Class 3 analysis, and I think that will benefit the Historical Commission because it'll start taking those steps to get the site designated as a National Historic Site. So I think there's some overlap there, some benefits of not just with the bridge, but with that as well. Definitely get their involvement, especially if we go through Grasso Park in terms of aesthetics and how it meshes with the park and benefits that. And if I hear the board correctly, the other options you'd like to look at, but we do want to maintain ADA compliance with all options. Is that correct? We do want to make it ADA accessible?
I think in a perfect world, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the options we'll bring forward and look at and those, as well as the Class 3.
Well, and my understanding is we go touching anything, we're expected to meet ADA,
If we touch anything, we
Yeah.
have to by
Yeah.
Title II in the PROAG bring it up to ADA compliance. The only alternative would be not to touch this section at all, and then we wouldn't have to. But it still opens up the town. All towns are supposed to be coming into ADA compliance over time, and we're supposed to have an ADA compliant plan showing that we are. So yes, we should be.
And there can be a mix, right, of ADA. If there's an ADA compliant trail that gets you one place and one that's not that gets you to the same place, that's fine, right? That's not a problem, right?
As long as it's near and reasonable, yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, one goes to one side of the building, the other goes to the other. It's pretty near and dear, right? That's all. Right? Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah, so we'll do that.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brandon and Leslie. Okay, it is 9:38. How does the board feel about pushing through to the budget, or are we taking a break? 5 minutes?
Or I'll just go myself.
All right, let's take 5 minutes and then we'll move on to item 6, which is our public hearing on our budget. So we'll be on break for 5 minutes. We're on to item 6. Are we doing these as joint items? 6, 7, 8, 9, and not 10. So 6, 7, and 8, and 9. This is public hearing and first reading on consideration of an ordinance adopting the town's 2025 budget and resolutions approving the town's 2025 appropriations and levying property taxes for 2025. A public hearing and first reading consideration of a resolution approving the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District 2025 budget and levying property taxes. A public hearing and first reading of consideration of a resolution approving the Superior Urban Renewal Authority 2025 budget, and item 9, which is public hearing and a first reading consideration of a resolution approving the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, 2025 budget and amending Appendix A of the district's rules and regulations. Do we have proof of publication? We do. All right, and I'll gavel in the public hearing. Mr. Stone.
I'll kick it off if you don't mind, Mayor.
Mr. Toth.
The Finance Director, Jeff Stone, is here, but I just wanted, on behalf of the town manager, just stop and take a second to recognize everybody's time and contributions on this. Board's had several meetings to go over this information over the last several months, and literally a day or two after the approval of last year's budget for this year, we start this process over again at the staff level, so I just want to recognize that effort on behalf of the entire finance team and everybody who works on the operating department staff, and Leslie's here, and everybody puts a ton of effort into this, so just appreciate your time and energy on this on the parts of all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Jeff Stone, town staff. I will agree with Martin. It takes the whole, from the board all the way down to the department heads to the departments to get through this. Start this back in May, and now we're here to start the process of the approval for the 2025 budget. And there will be, you guys will have 4 different hats as the mayor just rang in, so we'll go through everything here. Budget summary for 2024. In total, between the 13 funds that you guys that are included in these budgets, it comes to about $68.6 million in 2025. That compares a little bit to about 59.8 last year. Some of that is because we're paying off some debt in the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 next year with some balloon payment. Higher property values in the urban renewal area that increases those values, and then some projects in the Superior Metropolitan Interchange. 2025 board, excuse me, board and town board goals. The budget document is a critical tool reflecting the goals. We'll kind of go through what those have in the budget. Enhanced financial stability and business retention between downtown Superior and other developments. There's $13 million of new one-time revenues and $2.5 million of ongoing revenues over the 5-year planning horizon. This again helps with the financial stability of not only the town, but more importantly, the utilities. In the past, we were sending sales tax over to the water fund. Again, diversifying revenues, with all that stuff, we've refinanced debt, and then this year we're able to lower again the SMID mill levy, which will be 22 years in a row that the town has been able to reduce at least one property tax that they are in control of. Property tax credits, mill levies will stay for the general fund at 12.127. As I said, the Superior Metropolitan Interchange District combined drops just very slightly, but it does drop. One thing we're looking into that is in the budget is the special session 24B 1001 will not have much of an impact in 2025, but will have an impact in 2026 and will reduce property tax revenues in the budget by about 8%. Again, as I was talking about self-sufficiency of the SMD1 water and sewer, in the past, we were moving about $1.5 million worth of general fund revenue to help pay off the debt there because of an agreement that was set up, and with rate increases and new development, we've been able to eliminate that transfer, and that is going to be zero in the 5-year budget is the way it's planned. Economic development efforts will continue with the economic development manager position, working with the chamber, business retention, incentives, and recruitment. Providing excellent public service, again, operating program maintenance and enhancements. We're adding 2 full-time positions, a human resource coordinator and a public works inspector, and 1 new part-time events coordinator. Maintain and improve excellent public infrastructure. In the budget, there's $3.75 million for street maintenance, $275 for playground shade, park improvements, and xeriscaping, $310 for tree enhancements and care, Rock Creek Parkway pedestrian underpass, and then over $400,000 for park improvements. On the utility side, in 2024, it's $10.3 million with the town's share of the McCaslin new transmission water main, water pump station upgrades, starting the solids hauling facility at the water treatment plant, and then at the wastewater treatment plant, the aeration basin improvement project. Again, wastewater treatment plant, sludge removal equalization ponds, and then some storm drainage improvements. The big project for the water is the Windy Gap firming project in 2025. The town's portion of that is $1.46 million. This will be for the town's long-term water storage, and our allotment contracts with Northern Water go through 2055. Capital projects that are new, Public Works and Parks Maintenance and Operations Building. It's budgeted for water smart meters. Of those, 50% would be grant funded. And then finishing up the downtown Superior community space, as well as the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Next is the engage residents through outreach and engagement. I'm not going to go all through this. This is what the communications department works with the other departments, and this is all the things they do to outreach. There's 3 pages of this, so that's everything that's included there. Enhance open space, parks and trails, increase the open space coordination, maintenance and education efforts with Boulder County, master plan implementation, and possible property acquisitions. Promote, manage, and identify development and redevelopment opportunities, looking at Superior Marketplace revitalization and infill, integrate and complement the marketplace with development of downtown Superior, oversee additional development, and then economic development and current business outreach programs. Realize the town's sustainability action plan. Part of that's continue to work with ACES, the Advisory Committee for Environmental Sustainability, continuing the existing town-sponsored water conservation efforts. So those are kind of the goals quickly. The 2025 revenue assumptions, again, because of that Senate bill, property tax revenues in 2025 will be very similar to 2024. Again, in 2026, we've already got a reduction in property tax revenue of about 10% is what we've got factored in on those revenues. Sales tax revenues, we're looking at about a 2% increase in 2024. That's a little bit different. We've got, seeing some slow decline in the economy, but more of that, we had some adjustments for a couple of our retailers that happened this year that's making that look a little bit lower than it probably would. We're looking at the estimate for 2024 to still be up about 7%, which is about on budget. So we're hoping that we're trending to stay on that level. And just a reminder, the majority of sales tax is generated, we're at 66% this year to date that come from 5 businesses. Now, again, because of online sales, that has dropped in the last 5 years. 5 years ago, that was about 75 to 76%. So that's, we're at least slowly trending down. This is just a breakdown of how dependent the town is on sales tax. Sales and use tax makes up about 55 to 60% for the general fund. And then CIP and open space brings up about 95% of those revenues. Governmental fee changes for 2025 are proposed landscape maintenance fee of a 4% rate increase. The trash and recycling fee, that contract is being bid out right now. As we know that number, that will come back to you guys for your approval. Utility fee changes, water fee 7.5%, sewer 7.5%, and next year no storm drainage fees. Again, one-time utility connection fees are increasing by construction inflation. That's going to be about 3.13% based on the builder index that we use on that. Even with those rate increases, the 2025 average utility bill are estimated to be 16 to 31% lower than our neighbors' bills around us. Debt summary, existing debt, we're down to paying off about $7.8 million this year. And by 2026, we'll pay off 2 additional obligations. Again, in 2025, we'll pay off SMD 1. And then in 2026, we'll pay off the first open space series. And then after that, then we'll start paying off the principal for the 2020 debt that bought Coyote Ridge. Then this is a takeaway of our debt summary for the town. At the high point in 2006, we were at 71.5 million. At the end of 2024, we'll be at 24.5. And at the end of 2025 right now, we're estimated to be at $16.7 million for outstanding debts of the town. And that is the presentation on the budget.
Hey Jeff, can
Yes.
you go back just one page? On the Open Space 2015 series, are you basically saying we're going to pay it off a year early with 2025, or it was set to sunset in 2025?
No, that one actually will get paid off in 2026.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to be clear because it's, I see the heading say by 2026 they're all going to get paid off, but I just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah,
Got it.
so SMD 1 will be 2025. Open space, the first series of that will be paid off in 2026.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
And then he said, so our debt load in 2025 will be 17.6, is that what you said?
16.7 at the end of 2025.
16.7? Wow. That's good.
And again, that is, we do have that bigger payment to pay off the SMD 1. It's kind of I don't want to call it a real balloon payment, but it was structured to where we knew system development fees would be coming in. We've got the money in the bank, so it's about 3 to 4 times what we've been paying on a normal year.
When was the last time that the town had debt as low as 16.7 million? 1990s?
Yeah, it would have to be the 90s before the Mindy Gap project even started.
It's pretty good. All right. Questions for staff?
I have a couple questions of the government fee schedule, but I don't want to jump to that. The proposed one. I don't want to jump to that and leave, whatever else we might be talking about.
All right. You want to keep going? Or are you done?
I'm done with my presentation. Yeah,
Okay.
that is it.
Then Neil, why don't we just jump into whatever you want to ask?
Yeah, so on the government fee schedule, there's a couple questions. One of them is the core fee, the research fee. We're taking it up from 33 and change to 41 and 00. So just so everybody's aware, the state legislature basically increased what we were charging from 33.58 July 1, 2019, so that's why we made it $33.58. Now, as of July 1, 2024, we're allowed to increase that to $41.37. So I just wanted to understand why staff rounded it down and not take it up to the full fee. I know it's like pennies, and this is the kind of thing. And the reason here is we went through this discussion in 2019. I feel like I've been here for a million years. And the point being is the state's allowing us to charge this full amount because we incur costs of $70 to $80 per hour for a core request. The state allows us to recoup some of that, so why don't we recoup the full amount that we're allowed to rather than rounding it down?
Yeah, we can definitely make that change.
Okay.
So we're
And then-
allowed to, by statute, to collect how much?
$41.37.
Let's make it $41.37.
And then the other question I had, and I forget which page it's on, is the street closure fee looks like a new one. Like for barricades. I forgot what page it's on.
Yeah, that was something Brandon added to the That is offset by revenues. The additional Marshall Fire expenses for Parks and Rec, as well as unreimbursed expenses, and then an increase to the CIP fund to cover increased park projects that were approved during the year. Landscape fee fund, $100,000. That's because of some warranty work that Ranch Capital is going to be paying us back for. Open space fund is for purchases made earlier in the year and then additional mowing that was happened during the year. And then the capital improvement fund are for additional projects, $550,000 for Rock Creek Parkway underpass. Of that, 80% is going to be grant funded. Additional $400,000 on the street replacement program, $175,000 for traffic signal maintenance for poles that had to be replaced, $400,000 for xeriscaping, and this was part of the Rock Creek Parkway. It was budgeted in 2026. It made sense to do it with the project, so we just kind of accelerated that. That's what came to the board on that. And then another big one was $1.5 million for playground improvements, the increased cost for Big and Little Sagamore and Children's Park, and then $400,000 for downtown Superior civic space. So those are kind of the changes on the budget amendments for the town's overall budget.
Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just a question, because last week we approved the IGA for the special election. Is that included in the re-up here?
Yes, we've got a little bit extra money in the general fund that we don't, that will be included in there as well.
Okay.
All right. Any additional questions for staff?
And then one last question on RC Capital. I know it's been 8 weeks since we sort of asked for the detailed accounting of the $10 million. Are they still trying to find the receipts?
I have not heard a word from Matt on if that's coming
neither.
in. Martin, have you heard anything?
No.
Yeah, have not heard a thing, Neil, unfortunately.
We'll check on that this week, Neil.
Yeah, if not, I know we just executed the downtown civic space. I say we send them the invoice and then send them, a demand to be paid at this point. I mean, they can claim that we've spent it all, but at this point, I don't know that they have. So, that obviously, the only reason I bring it up now is you mentioned some reimbursement that's going to occur, and I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the 10 million.
Yes, okay. All right, I'll go on to the next one for the Superior Urban Renewal Authority. This is just the increase in the property tax valuations and the amount of revenue that we will collect, because for the town, this is a net zero game. We collect the taxes, it goes back to the developer and the other entities. So this is just an increase in valuation compared to what we had budgeted. And then the last one is Superior Metropolitan Interchange District. And this is because we're paying off the SMID debt this year, there will be a little bit of money left at the end of 2024. So to close that fund out, we needed a little bit more money. Whatever's left at the end of 2024 will be transferred over to the operating side, and we just need the budget to be able to transfer that. So that's all this one is. So those are the 3 budget amendments that you guys will be approving with 3 resolutions and one ordinance.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Any additional questions for staff? All right. Open up for public comment. Anybody in the public like to make public comment? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom? There are none. All right. Public comment is closed. Any additional questions for staff? Seeing none. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain some motions to approve our budget amendments. I'll just say thank you to staff. You guys always do an amazing job with preparing the budgets and then making the amendments as appropriate. So I rely on you guys to do the work, and I'm very comfortable and confident in your ability to make sure that our budget's in working order. So thank you.
This is our first reading, right?
Well, this is the amendment for our 2024.
Oh, the amendment. Okay. Oh,
budget,
okay.
So
Got it.
this is
Got it.
not a first reading.
Not
This
that
is-
one, the amendment.
We're
Okay.
taking action on our budget
Got it.
amendment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then, got it.
That's what we've done in the past, so if that's okay, it's up to the board. But we'll plan on this unless you'd like to do otherwise.
Okay, so you want a motion?
Couple motions.
Okay, make a motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-58, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2024.
Okay, we've got a motion from trustee Hammerly,
Second.
second from trustee Serbu. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
Yes.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Thank you.
You ready with the ordinance?
Make a motion to approve Superior Urban Renewal Authority Resolution SURA-3, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Superior Urban Renewal Authority approving a supplemental budget and appropriations for 2024.
Second.
We've got a motion from trustee Hammerly and a second from trustee McCool.
President Lasis?
Yeah, roll call vote. Yeah, sorry, this is Commissioner Hammerly and Commissioner McCool. Yes.
Vice President Shaw?
Yes.
Or-
Whatever it is.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Cowish?
Yes.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes.
Commissioner Serbu?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hammerly?
Yes.
And we skipped over the ordinance. Can we go back and just do the ordinance for, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve Town of Superior Ordinance Number O-15, Series 2024, which is an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Motion from Mayor Lasis, second from trustee McCool. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Lasis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Cowish?
Yes.
Trustee McCool?
Yes.
Trustee Serbu?
Yes.
Trustee Hammerly?
Yes.
All right, and now we need SMID. I've got it. I'll make a motion to approve Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District Resolution SMID-3, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District approving a supplemental budget and appropriations for 2024.
Second.
Got a motion from President Lasis and a second from Director Hammerly.
Thank you.
Vice President Shaw?
Yes.
Director Serbu?
Yes.
Director Cowish?
Yes.
Director McCool?
Yes.
Director Hammerly?
Yes.
President Lasis?
Yes.
Thank you for remembering to do that. It is important.
Yeah. Okay. We're on to item 11, which is adjournment. So unless there's anything further, I will adjourn.
Yes,
We're adjourned.
Bye-bye.
Let's hang out
All right.
some more.
45 minutes.